Okay, it being 5 p.m., the Lafourche Parish Council meeting of February 9, 2021 is hereby called to order. Ms. Carlene, can you please conduct roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones. Here. Mr. Adams. Present. Mr. Groh. Here. Mr. Melvin. Here. Mr. Wendell. Here. Mr. Grabe. Here. Chairman Otan.
Here.
Mrs. Chasson. Councilman Lorraine is absent tonight. Parish President Chasson.
I'm here. Thank you very much, Ms. Carlene. If everyone would be so kind to rise, we'll be led in the invocation by Councilman Groh, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We are honored to have Command Sergeant Major Walker, a fellow veteran, in the audience. So if you would please lead us in the pledge after the invocation, sir.
Okay. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, we thank you for everyone gathered here tonight. Thank you that we know each other by name, and you've caused us to walk with you. Come fill our lives with your love, fill our conversations with your grace and truth, and fill this meeting with your presence. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. Remind everyone, anyone wishing to address the council, there are blue forms at the entrance of the door. Please get up to Ms. Carlene and we'll be sure to recognize you during public wishing to address the council. Other than that, we'll get right on to the people's business. Item A, approval of minutes. I'll now entertain a motion to accept the minutes of January 26, 2021 regular session. So moved by Councilman Jones, second by Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Lorraine. Item B, this is where we normally have the outstanding citizen. At this time, we would like to allow Councilman Wendell to have the floor. Mr. Wendell, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, we have a proclamation by the council to recognize Command Sergeant Major Vertus Walker of the 773rd Bulldogs Military Police Battalion of the Louisiana National Guard tonight. You have that slide, Robbie? If you take a look real quick, this is a copy of the proclamation that I'll read, but all the way to the left-hand side is a picture of Sergeant Major Walker, who exited his vehicle and saluted a military procession for a deceased veteran that was passing by, and it caused quite a stir across social media and in some of the communities, some of the community pages. Not to get too in depth into it because a lot of it's covered in the proclamation, I'll go ahead and start. It says, whereas as requested by Council Vice Chair James Wendell, the Lafourche Parish Council wishes to recognize Command Sergeant Major Vertus Walker of the 773rd Military Police Battalion Bulldogs of Louisiana National Guard as an exemplary leader, soldier, and citizen of our country and state. And whereas as Command Sergeant Major Walker was traveling the roads of Lafourche Parish as part of his duty assignments with Louisiana National Guard on February 4th, 2021, he encountered a funeral being escorted by the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Recognizing that the procession included a hearse with flags on it, signifying the service member's funeral, he exited his vehicle in the intersection, stood at attention, and saluted as the procession passed. And whereas the family of the deceased were so moved, they posted a photograph of this tremendous act of kindness and show of respect and testimony of character to social media, where it has gone viral in our parish and neighboring parishes and in several community groups. And whereas public comment across social media platforms thanked the unknown soldier for his decency and respect during this family's time of loss and mourning, several posts were made to find the identity of this soldier because in today's society, keyboard warriors across social media, recent political separation, and mass divide throughout our nation, state, and parish, this gesture showed both decency and behavior of what each of us hopes to be exposed to and encounter daily. And whereas in past interviews surrounding promotions, Command Sergeant Major Vertus Walker has been quoted as saying, "It is an incredible blessing and a great opportunity for me as a leader and a soldier to continue to represent my state and my country. And a person's actions and behaviors when no one is watching is a true testament to one's character, and Command Sergeant Vertus Walker's actions on February 4th, 2021 shows that he is committed to both his country, state, and anywhere else that he visits or is assigned. It would have been easy to overlook what was going on in the intersection, to take time to adjust his radio, scroll social media, make a phone call, or complain of the 3 to 5 minute delay he was facing, but he chose to act in accordance with his morals, training, upbringing, and show respect. Much respect, sir. Whereas Command Sergeant Major Vertus is a 30-year veteran of Louisiana National Guard and is a sheriff's deputy for the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Office, his commitment to the community is commended, and we're lucky to have him in our area, even though it is for a short time. Now for there it be resolved by Lafourche Parish Council, convened in regular session on February 9th, 2021. We do hereby recognize and thank Command Sergeant Major Vertus Walker for his true exercise in humanitarian virtue and principles, and for being an exemplary leader, soldier, and citizen of our country and state. Before I go down to present him with this, I also Facebook stalked him a little bit, and his parents, Mr. Willie and Miss Margaret, were at his some pinning of some of his awards that he received in the last year or so. And they had a picture of him in the paper, I believe the Shreveport Times or something up north, because he's from that area, Shreveport, Bossier. And they were sitting there with smiles on their face from ear to ear. And I know that they're not here with us today, but they can watch this back on Facebook Live, some of the streaming things, and I'm sure they'll have that same pride. So kudos to your parents for raising you. Thank you for bringing more to our parish than you're leaving with, and we definitely appreciate it, sir. So thank you.
Right.
Say a few words? Or?
Use them all in one. Well, first off, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for this. This is such an honor, such a blessing. Kind of a little embarrassing. My mom and dad taught me to do the right thing, even when no one's watching. I try to make sure that I pass that same message on to my boys, pass that same message on to my soldiers. You never know who's watching. You never know what's going on in somebody's life. So I just try to live my life the best possible way I can, be a great representative to my parents, to the state of Louisiana, who's in the National Guard. So again, this is really awesome. I appreciate it. I just want you to know I got the message from a guy from Hawaii.
It was going around, and you were a hard man to track down. I don't know if you had witnessed relocation or whatever, but you have a Vermont license plate, and so finally when I got in touch with Sergeant Major, he says, I don't need any recognition. I was just, doing how I was brought up to be, which is a typical response of a public servant, a police officer, firefighter, members of the council. Not in it for the recognition. I was just doing what I felt in my heart was right at that time, and but it really brought a lot, in a time when we needed it, just to break the ice and let people see the human side of things. So, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. God bless you.
Thank you.
Right. Yes, we need more people to humbly lead by example. Thank you so much, Sergeant Major. Okay, we move to item C, presentations and or updates. Item 2, Parish President to recognize Lafourche Parish Government Employee of the Month and or WOW Employee for the month of January. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, an outstanding employee to recognize this month, Ms. Sonia Ockman from our Finance Department. In her nomination letter, it was written that she's very thorough in her work and doesn't spare any detail. She is liked by her peers and willing to go the extra mile when necessary. And they use the term quite often with Sonia that she doesn't just tell you the time, she builds you the clock. She's a tremendous asset to Finance Department, has made the transition of Finance Director less challenging, which I guess outs Renita as the person who nominated her. But she stepped up into her role as accounting manager and hit the ground running because of her dedication, and therefore she is our Employee of the Month.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and congratulations. Item 3, Mr. Wayne Gocho, General Manager of Lafourche Parish Water District Number 1, to present an annual report. So I don't know if we have to turn the mic on. It's a new setup. It's already on. Good deal. If you don't mind, just state who you with, Wayne, and the address. So we got it on the
Hi,
record.
good evening. 429 Fantastic Boulevard, Richmond, Louisiana. My name is Wayne Gocho. I'm the General Manager for Lafourche Parish Water District, and I'm happy to present our report for calendar year 2020. Each of you have a copy of the full report. If you have any questions on any specific project in your area or just in general in the parish, just give us a call and we can further explain it if it's not explained to you tonight. This past year, the Water District produced approximately 3.6 billion gallons of water, or roughly about 9.8 million gallons a day from both our plants, from the north and south plant. Seems like a lot of water, but it's actually 110 million gallons less this year, the year 2020, from the year before. So you can see things are slowing down. Pouchon continues to be our biggest supplier, but even Pouchon is down almost 300,000 gallons a day, which is a lot, you know, when you're selling to them at a premium. So luckily, it's been a little bit of a dry year, so our residential sales has been up, and it's kind of made up some of the difference between the two. But the overall sales are down for the year, but not as bad as they could have been if it had been a wet like it is right now, where we're not selling a lot of water residential-wise, so it did help pick up some of the slack. Some of the projects that we've been able to summarize on complete, despite the pandemic and it seems like 6 or 7 hurricanes, we've able to install over 16,000 foot of new 8-inch water lines throughout the parish, roughly about $1.6 million worth of work. One of the things we did want to appreciate was the parish president not locking us down. You know, when it did start to where the contractors couldn't work and stuff and all, it kept our people working. You know, they out in the field and all that, was no reason to shut them down, so we appreciate that. We did another $1.25 million of non-water line work, upgrading pump stations. We had an oil elevator in our plant that we repaired, and other upgrades, just maintenance in our stations and our tanks and stuff and all. Currently, we have approximately $1.9 million worth of new water line construction, about 32,400 feet of 8-inch water line that's under construction. The biggest project is a capital outlay project that we received back in 2019. We finally got all the paperwork done and the bidding done. It's about 17,000 feet of new 8-inch water line in the South Lafourche area through capital outlay. That project has basically funded everything through capital outlay. We don't have no matching funds on that one, which is a good deal. We got a roughly just under another $1 million worth of non-water line work, upgrading the booster station and all that's ongoing, and some work at our north plant. Currently under design, we have another $2 million worth of water line work under design. A lot of it is 8-inch stuff, but most of it, the airport connector road and bridge, we've got a lot of water line work to replace with that project. We have a bigger water line that we're crossing underneath the Bayou Bluff Canal by the Kramer Bridge and stuff. That's going to help out that lower end of the parish, lower end of the Kramer area, you know. And let's see, that's some Valentine Bridge replacement work that we're going to be doing, where we got some water line replacement work. So we got a lot of big stuff going on besides the 8-inch stuff. We do have some capital outlay work in the Kramer area that we'll be matching. We'll be getting approval from our board next week to match, and that's going to take a big portion of the water line, almost 6 miles of water line in the lower Kramer area. So design work, that's non-water line work, $13 million, which is a big chunk, but a lot of that is our expansion that we have planned for the north plant. We've kind of pushed back some of the slowdown that's going on in the area and all that. So what we're doing is we're breaking it into smaller projects and doing some of the smaller things that we can do without doing the full scope of the plant project. So we're breaking that down into smaller projects, and we're also adding on to the administration office at our south plant. It hadn't been upgraded since '87, and we're kind of busting at the seams. So we'll be doing a small expansion in that area. In conclusion, you know, while the economy, you know, has been a downturn and all that, we've been able to make some adjustments. Our board has done a good job. We haven't raised the rates again this year. And hopefully our new budget year starts July 1st. We won't have to raise rates again. We hadn't raised rates since 2018, so we've been able to adjust and make changes here and there without having to, you know, hit the residents up for more money. The final page of the report is our fiscal year end in 2021, shows our expense budget estimated about 8.45 million, which is a slight increase from last year, mainly due to chemical costs and some insurance costs. And our capital budget is a slight decrease with some of the work we completed the year before. In closing, always like to recognize our employees. We got 66 employees, and it sounds like a lot, but when you break it down into 3 departments, it's not a lot of people. We have to show up for work, not like y'all, you know, with the virus and all that. We can't stay home. We can't work from home. We've done a good job of juggling our people. We've had some come down with the virus. We've been able to, you know, rotate people and stuff and all that. So I really want to commend our group and our board because it's been a lot the last year between the virus and the hurricanes and stuff and all. So other than that, that's my report.
Good. Anyone has any questions for Wayne? Nope. I want to thank you, Wayne. Also want to thank the Lafourche Freshwater District. I know they've been shutting that control structure for y'all, I think twice in the last month or so. But thank y'all, and as I said before the meeting, thank y'all for what y'all did in Rita because that low-income community really needed all those new water lines.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Grove.
Any information on the possible grant for the Gaines area on the water line? I know that's out of your realm, it's a state project, but
Yeah.
can you enlighten us on that?
Yeah. A lot of what's going on in Gaines is firefighting wise, you know, we're not a firefighting agency. I know y'all hear that a lot. We do, the water line upgrades that we're doing are the small lines that are upgrading. So we do add fire hydrants and all that when we do these upgrades, but it's not specifically for firefighting. We've met with Spence and we've met with Representative Ogeron in the area, and I know he's pushing for capital outlay money that's going to run a bigger line in there. The problem with Gaines, like I say, it's a firefighting problem. It's not a water problem. So we're going to be limited to what we can do on our end because, you know, we try not to, or we basically don't participate in anything fire related. You know, if it's to upgrade a water line for a bigger size, for water quality and stuff, and you know, we'll do that. So, but we did meet with Representative Ogeron, and there is money on the firefighting side to upgrade the water line. And if they do get the money, that's fine. We'll engineer it. We'll go out there and we'll, you know, help with the design and all that. We just won't participate. But, you know, a lot of times there is money that'll cover the full expenses on stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good deal. Anyone else? Thank you, Wayne.
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Item 4, Mr. Cody Gray, President and CEO of Louisiana's Cajun Bayou Tourism, to present an annual report on the current state of travel for 2021. Cody, if you don't mind, just begin by stating your name and address and affiliations.
Cody Gray, Louisiana's Cajun Bayou Tourism, address 624 Percy Brown Road, apartment 128, Thibodaux, Louisiana. Good evening, council members, Parish President Chasson. Thank you for having me here this evening. My name is Cody Gray, as I just mentioned. I am the new president and CEO of Louisiana's Cajun Bayou Tourism here in Lafourche Parish. On behalf of our board of directors and our staff, I'm excited to present to you our 2020 annual report. Where am I pointing this at? Oh, there we go. All right, so our agenda this evening is going to be fairly brief. It'll conduct an overview currently of what happened in 2020, what our occupancy looked like at the end of 2020 last year, destination promotion, what we accomplished even during the pandemic, projects and outreach that we conducted, and the outlook going into 2021. So we'll start with the overview. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR grew in Lafourche Parish year over year, 2020 versus 2019. And in a couple of slides, you will see more detailed information on the occupancy numbers. We launched our marketing campaign and theme, Remember Lafourche, which was presented to you earlier in the summer of 2020 by our previous president, Timothy Bush. This campaign will continue on into 2021 with updated creative and audience targeting. In October, we launched the first ever Bayou Feast Restaurant Month, which was aimed at supporting local restaurants during the pandemic. Press and writers, of course, have stopped most of their travel due to the pandemic, so we got very creative and brought Lafourche Parish to them in a very unique way. Due to high occupancy and little travel, due to the pandemic, we turned our focus to look at how we can better support our local communities and our parish, our tourism attractions during this difficult time. We took our marketing efforts and started engaging with more local and drive radius audiences. In November and December of 2020, we promoted shopping and eating local during the holiday season to get people out and supporting local businesses. In the fall, our former president and CEO, Timothy Bush, advanced his travel and tourism career to new heights as he became the Chief Tourism Development Officer with One Spartanburg, Inc. in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So the last bullet point on this slide is transition into new leadership, and here I am. So I served as the Director of Sales and Marketing under Timothy's leadership at the Lafourche Parish Tourist Commission prior to taking this role. Following his departure, I was promoted to the interim president and CEO, and then later in the year, permanently appointed by the board of directors to the position of permanent president and CEO. I'm originally from Florida, where I worked in the tourism industry for nearly 8 years with experience in both CVBs and hotels, and I am very humbled and thankful for the trust placed in me by our board of directors and our staff. I look forward to continuing the great work Louisiana's Cajun Bayou is known for, and to further establishing Lafourche Parish as a regional, national, and international travel tourism destination. Moving down to point 2, which will be occupancy for 2020. So I'm going to start with going over these numbers that you see here in front of you, and then I will, at the end of that, recap why we see these increases. So occupancy increased overall 12.5% for the parish in 2020. 2020 ended with 47.4% occupancy versus 2019, which was 42.2% occupancy. ADR, which is average daily rate, increased 2.9%. At the end of 2020, we ended with an 89.32 average daily rate, 2019, 86.81. And then a revenue per available room we saw an increase of 15.7% at the end of 2020, which was $42.35 versus 2019 $36.60. So these increases would be major during just a normal year, but they are especially considering that we were and still are in a pandemic. The reason for these increases is due to private contracts with a lot of our major hotels in the parish from gas and oil companies. Workers have to quarantine prior to going offshore and coming back in. And so this has created a demand for hotel rooms, which is a good situation, of course, for us to be in, and we are very thankful for the business, and so are our hotel partners. Even hotels that are not under contract are currently seeing a lot of business due to the lack of availability in the parish with other hotel properties, and of course, neighboring Terrebonne Parish is also in the same position that we are in. We are very fortunate to have this business, as I mentioned, and we continue to work with our hotel partners as we look ahead to the return of travel later in 2021. Additionally, you will see per this slide, this gives you an overview of last year's occupancy. So yellow representing 2020 occupancy, the blue indicating 2019 occupancy. And you'll note in January and February started off as a pretty normal year. And then of course, March and April, you'll see that's when the pandemic really was widespread. Quarantine started, lockdown started happening, so it dropped dramatically. May, you'll see it pick back up to a normal level, and then a major spike in June, which is when those private contracts started with the hotels, which increased the occupancy, and that of course continues through the remainder of the year, closing out 2020. So it is a huge leap for occupancy, ADR, and revenue per available room increase in the parish for 2020. Some of which we have never seen before, and it's crazy to sit here and say during a pandemic we've seen some of the highest occupancy and ADR levels. So moving on to number 3, which is our destination promotion report, section of the report. So we've also seen great results from our destination promotion efforts in 2020. With travel coming to a halt and people going into quarantine, more travelers sought to engage and make future travel plans or just daydream and get ideas about future trips. So we continue to promote to our main markets along the Gulf Coast and the Southeast to remain relevant and for them to remember Lafourche. Through this year's promotional efforts, we saw a 22% growth in website traffic with a total of 169,000 users visiting LACajunBayou.com's website last year, with top website traffic coming from the states of Louisiana, Texas, and Florida. Noting that those are, of course, within driving distance, backing up the data to support that. So we also continue to leverage our public relations strategies and our partnerships to stay out in front of the media and to promote travel in the best way and the safest way possible, and encouraging those to virtually visit Louisiana's Cajun Bayou. Through articles placed, media mentions, and with more users being online now more than ever during lockdown, we saw an increase of 88% in media impressions and a 16,000 print circulation through our paid advertising efforts. Some of the publications we were included in includes the USA Today 10 Best, which named Thibodaux, Louisiana, the #3 small-town food scene in the United States, and we were the only small-town food scene to be recognized in the state of Louisiana on that list. We were also featured in the Washington Post, Reader's Digest, AARP, and Travel Awaits. Moving on, as you can imagine, social media traffic, of course, grew along with the website. We saw a combined 47% growth in our social media channels. That includes Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We have a combined 39,000 viewer audience followers on our social media accounts, and again, that's those 3 platforms combined. Traffic to our visitor center, as you'll note to the right of the slide, did decline as expected, 58% due to the lack of travel and in-person visitation. We saw about 1,000 visitors to the visitor center, which is drastically down from the number that we normally see in a normal year. But where we lacked in-person visitation, we grew in digital visitation. Downloads of our Louisiana's Cajun Bayou Visitor Guide, as you'll note per the bottom of the slide, grew 53%. That's where visitors are going to our website and downloading a copy of our guide. And that resulted in 3,000 digital downloads of our visitor guide, which was, again, that 53% increase from 2020. Additionally, we did send out 385 printed visitor guides, which is up 8% year over year, 2020 versus 2019. And the pandemic did not hurt people's appetites because we did receive 4,000 digital downloads of our Cajun Bayou Food Trail map and passport, featuring restaurants up and down the bayou. There we go. All right, moving down to number 4, projects and outreach. So originally we planned to launch a restaurant month in the parish before COVID-19. And so as we progressed later into the year, we saw that it was needed now more than ever. In order to help support local restaurants that were suffering due to the pandemic, in October we launched Bayou Feast Restaurant Month, which hopefully some of you here have seen the advertisements for in October of last year. This was a first for Lafourche Parish and had 14 restaurants participating up and down the bayou in this month-long promotion that spanned the month of October. Each offered either a 2 for $20 meal deal, a 2 or 3 course lunch or dinner option, a family meal deal, or a signature Bayou Feast dish. We received tremendous positive feedback from the promotion, which was aimed at locals and those within driving radius neighboring parishes. Participating restaurants were surveyed after, and from those responding, we received extremely positive feedback and indication that they would participate in it again should we run the promotion. Some of the highlights from the campaign are, we saw 651,651 digital impressions and a click-through rate of 0.21%. Industry average for a click-through rate in the tourism industry is 0.9%, just for reference, with a majority of clicks coming from ages 35 to 45. Demographics skewed slightly to females at 56% versus male, 44%. Social media was 157,957, generating 16,823 clicks, and drove 4,100 sessions to our website. Most users engaged on social media were in the age range of 65 plus. Our Bayou Feast webpage saw 9,105 page views and an average time on page of 2 minutes and 22 seconds. We plan to make this an annual event and look forward to bringing this back in October of 2021. Back. There we go. So the other project that we launched this year, last year, was a virtual culinary press trip. This was the first time that Louisiana's Cajun Bayou has ever hosted a virtual culinary press trip, and of course we named it Cooking with Cajuns. The goal of this event was to promote our unique culinary culture while creating an engaging virtual press trip for the media, unlike any currently taking place. And I know if anybody's inboxes here are like mine, you've got 1,000,001 Zoom invitations or webinars. So creating something unique was very important. Many journalists have attended virtual fam tours or cooking demos, but our goal was to create a more intimate experience that felt like a one-on-one conversation with local chefs. Instead of a cooking class, we wanted to showcase and highlight Cajun techniques with authentic recipes while telling personal stories about life on the bayou. It was broadcast live from the Chef John Folse Culinary Institute and featured 3 local chefs, a host, which was myself, and a representative of the Culinary Institute and a culinary student. We limited the event to 5 hand-picked journalists from across the United States that write for publications in our market. Press kits with story ideas, chef bios, area information were all sent to journalists in advance, along with personalized gift boxes that offered a taste of the bayou. The event was a great success with tremendous feedback from the 5 journalists, and we would like to extend a very special thank you to Chef Nathan Richard of Cuvée, Chef Anthony Goldsmith of Cajun Twist, owner Donald Bourgeois of Bourgeois Meat Market, Hilary Charpentier of the Culinary Institute, and Dalton Prince, student of the Culinary Institute, for participating in the event and being our Bayou ambassadors to the media. This remote really does not like me this evening. So last point, number 5, our outlook for 2021. So what happened in 2020? As all of us know, pandemic hit and everything went into chaos. So in looking back, what were some of the major blows to the overall travel and tourism industry in the United States during 2020? According to data from Tourism Economics and U.S. Travel Association, unemployment in the travel industry hit a devastating 51% unemployment in 2020. The U.S. Travel Association just released data as of today showing that 39% of jobs lost in 2020 were in the travel and hospitality industry. The largest hit in the hotel industry was felt in full-service and luxury brand hotels. RevPAR, revenue per available room, declined, was unprecedented nationally in 2020. Numbers of that magnitude have never been seen in decline for RevPAR. The industry overall lost a decade worth of growth, 10 years worth of growth in revenue per available room and demand nationwide in 2020. It is predicted that the U.S. will not rebound to 2019 pre-COVID growth until the year 2024 in the travel and tourism industry. But as we say goodbye to 2020, we made it to 2021. So how are things shaping up and what are we leaving behind in 2020? Before we get into the timeline, I would like to emphasize to please remember that this is all subject to change. This timeline in front of you, predictions and data are constantly changing due to the nature of the pandemic. And so by the time I walk out this door today, it could have been updated. But this is the latest that we have received from Tourism Economics. Quarter 1, Quarter 2, according to the latest data and insights from Tourism Economics, the start of the year, as you can see, will be a slow and difficult start. Things are still uncertain. Focus is placed on the vaccine distribution and getting the disease under control. By Quarter 3, 2021, it is predicted that immunity rises, cases decline. Leisure travel is predicted to pick back up and increase as we head into the summer. Summer months, late spring and early summer, and then into the main portion of the summer right now is what's predicted to be the big return to travel, or hopefully to leisure travel in that time frame. Quarter 4 is optimistic, with predictions being that business travel and group events begins to normalize substantially. Corporate travel restrictions eased and group events permitted in most areas, although certain restrictions would still be in place. And again, that is a hope and prediction. It is also predicted that group demand could potentially recover to about 20 to 30% below 2019 levels. Outdoor recreation and open spaces continue to be a big draw for people. Many who are beginning to travel again are not looking for a major crowded city, but rather a smaller destination with room to roam. This is another area of great opportunity for Louisiana's Cajun Bayou as we continue to promote our outdoors, fishing, swamp tours, and small town scenes. Lastly, it is important to remember why tourism matters to Lafourche Parish. According to research received from our 2019 Visitor and Lodging Study, which was presented to you last year by Timothy, this study was conducted by Randall Travel Marketing. At the end of this study, it was concluded that tourism generates over $54 million of direct economic impact to Lafourche Parish. That does not include data from non-STR properties, which STR stands for Smith Travel Research, so those not reporting to Smith Travel Research, day trippers, and those visiting friends and family here in the parish. And again, I stress and emphasize how important the tourism economy is to Lafourche Parish, and it is reflected here in these numbers. And then lastly, as we plan for the return to travel and look optimistically into the future, we can be certain that this pandemic has shown us the vital importance of the travel and tourism industry here on the Bayou, the jobs and businesses that it directly supports, and the major impact that it has on our local economy. On behalf of Louisiana's Cajun Bayou Tourism, our board of directors, and our staff, I thank you for allowing me to present this evening. That will conclude our 2020 annual report. Any questions?
Anyone has any questions?
I have a quick one.
No? Okay, girl.
So, Cody, thanks for coming, and,
Sure.
you taking place of your predecessor did a really good job, so.
Yes, he
I
did.
would say big shoes to fill, but he's a short guy like me, so, the marketing program is perfect, and the pandemic hit a lot of people,
Yes.
a lot of people really hard. Do you know, like, the hotels, like I was at one in Terrebonne, they have full restaurant now, but like, the Holiday Inn right here down the road, has been booked up for months, and I assume they're probably gonna go into June, July. Where are those people getting fed? Because they need to be kept in some type of bubble. Do you know?
So we asked that same question because we looked at that as, we have so many restaurants here. How do we, if it's a captive audience, how do we get them out and doing that? Of course, then it realized, well, they're quarantining, so they can't get out. So from my understanding and checking with some of our hotel partners, the Hampton and Thibodeau and some of the lower end down the Bayou, a lot of them contract in catering companies that are either partnering with like major chains such as Longhorn or Texas Roadhouse that will cater in those meals to the individuals that are quarantined there on property. They're not allowed to leave property. They're not allowed to have any family visit or there's no exchange of people. So they are very strict on those food regulations. So what they do is they contract with the catering companies and they bring that in.
And I'm glad you mentioned about, people within a drive, because I've seen that work. I've eaten at Freeman's and saw people that I knew from Berwick. How'd you get here? Well, it was because of y'all's site or some of the things that Timothy was posting even personally. So keep that up, because I know even in my own life and my coworkers and friends, everybody you see is going on these quick little short destinations when they have time, 1-2 hours away, Natchez or coming here from there. So keep that up, and it's very minimal to advertise.
It is.
That way.
We've done a lot with that. I mean, we launched, the Remember Lafourche campaign in June, and we had grand plans, of course, for that. And whenever this really hit and really changed the way that people are traveling, we pivoted all that very quickly to speak to that drive and that staycation radius. And even looking into 2021, that is still the bread and butter, going into the first half of this year. Right. And even as we go into the latter part, it's going to be that drive radius. So I agree, and thank you.
Yeah, that money we gave you will last a long way if you just do Facebook ads.
We have increased our social media advertising, as you can see from the numbers, quite a bit, and it has yielded very good results. So yes, absolutely, thank you.
Mr. Graubear.
Yeah, I just wanted to give an update on the fork and the spoon that was set
Yes.
up on the buy. I spoke to you about.
Yes.
Well, we now have located the drawings. President Chesson located it, and he sent it to one of the local fabrication shop here. So they're still in the making. So
All right.
I'm just giving you an update on that.
Well, thank you. I look forward to getting it
Thank you,
back.
Mr. Graubear. Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item D, Legal Advisor Report. I think we have none, Ms. Carleen. Item E, Engineers, Architect Reports. Do we have any engineers, architects?
Good evening, John Plaisance with GIS Engineering, 16878 West Main Street in Cutoff. We've got one project for y'all right now, some drainage improvements along West 55th Street in Cutoff. Just wanted to let y'all know we had the pre-bid conference this afternoon. We'll be taking bids 2 weeks from Thursday, so the 25th. So hopefully at one of y'all meetings in March, we'll have a little bidder for y'all, so y'all can award that contract.
Thank you very much.
About $165,000 in construction.
Thank you, John. I see you have the new logo mask on too, if anyone hadn't seen Port Fourchon's new logo. Very good. Anyone has any questions, John? Thank you. Appreciate the report.
Thank y'all.
Good evening. Jacob Waits with David Waits Engineering and Surveying, 1107 Canal Boulevard in Thibodaux. I have one project to report on. That's the Fairway to Percy Brown outfall ditch improvements. We received bids on Tuesday, February 2nd, and the bids came in over budget. We recommend to reject the bids and go back to the drawing board. That's all I have to report today.
Mr. Melvin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jacob. I got a quick question real quick. And again, engineering is not my thing, but I know if I'm going to build, let's say, build a project at my house, I go price the lumber or whatever I'm doing and get an idea, pour cement, what have you, get my permit, But in any event, what I'm trying to figure out is this, I know that y'all designed it to have a cement line ditch, and I'm assuming y'all probably, I guess, went off some numbers of the Dugas Canal, just to get an idea, which I know was a huge project. I'm just trying to figure out how are they just overbid, overpriced, or was it under budgeted from a point of view of y'all projections?
So I kind of see what you're getting at. It's a lot more than we expected. It's one of those things, to get a price for this, we use previous projects' pricing to figure out what we're going to do. Dugas Canal, we concrete lined a very large section of ditch. We took that price and we heard complaints that it was underbid by the contractor, so we increased the price to what we thought may have been fair. Sounds like the contractor was very underbid on the Dugas Canal project. That's basically all we can say. So we used their number, increased it a lot, and still came in way under budget.
Right, because I know y'all were the engineers for that project, so it just seems like it just made sense. And look, I know it's a lot of numbers. I know it's, you got to plug in some theorems and all that.
This is a smaller project too, so the smaller the project, the bigger the range you're going to have as far as what it's going to cost. We had interest from contractors, but it's a very tight space. There's a lot of liability involved in it, and it just seemed like they didn't want to mess with it.
So what maybe suggestions going forward? Because again, I know the original intent was to do something to stop some of this canal from eroding, and I know we're going to maybe build some back, but do you have any ideas of what y'all discussed or what moving forward?
I don't have anything right now, but I think we should meet with Public Works and see if we can come up with a plan.
I don't know how much bulkheading is. I'm not saying bulkheading. I'm just saying, is that in the realm? I don't know what y'all even discussing. Anybody want to chime in?
Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, but we kind of kicked it around the day we opened bids when we realized we were that far off, and especially, I guess, the next day when the apparent low, when the apparent low bidder, we probably could have worked within. We'd have funneled some money in from another project, but when that bidder came in and said he screwed up his bid and he was pulling it, and we realized we were $200-something thousand off, it got a little bit more difficult. So we're exploring some options of looking at his grading plan and his plans and seeing if we can just use our maintenance contractor to go in and restabilize the bank to keep it from eroding, especially around that one house that has the problem with the air conditioner that I think is about to fall in or pretty close to it. And then we'll see if we can rock it from there or rip wrap it or bulkhead it. It's not going to be a quick turnaround as far as a full-fledged project, but I think we can do something to stabilize the bank in the next couple of months.
Right, well, that would be great, because again, I'm not saying if it's over budget, it is what it is. I'm not trying to pull money out of thin air. I just want to make sure that if we do anything, that number one, the public money is going to be well spent and have something solid to where, we don't have to face this again in the next 5 years, 6 years, 7 years.
And we obviously have engineering fees already invested, or taxpayers have it invested in this project already. Okay, no other questions. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you all.
Any other engineers, architects? That's it. All right, we move to item F, public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items, etc. Ms. Carlin, you have anyone? Nope, all right. Item G, public hearings and ordinances for ratification. I entertain a motion to open public hearing. So moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Adams. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Lorraine. Number 5, ordinance providing for a 2021 supplemental appropriation 21-005 within the 2021 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to increase the budget for various grants and drainage improvement projects and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item number 5? 1 time, 2 times, last call for public on item 5. Anyone from the council would like to discuss this?
Yep.
Mr. Grove?
Just 2 quick questions. So, is there a reason they all go in together? Because if you disagree with one, it kind of shoots everything out there.
Mr. President?
It's really just a cleanup item, so we don't have 45 ordinances on an agenda.
No, I appreciate that. But my second question was, where you have Fund 206, in construction roads, it's about the Percy Brown ditch that we just talked about. You put another 100,000 in, does that get it close?
So that's actually was taking in the $100,000 commitment from the levy district. But that still doesn't get us close. We were still about $140-something thousand off, even with that.
Wow.
So
Okay.
so I mean, I guess just to answer your question, we're gonna accept it, see what we can do long-term, and worst case, we have to come back to you guys to shift the, we hadn't done a CA with him yet. This is kind of just being able to book the money, so.
And this comes from, like Bo said, I'm in no way an engineer, but do we ever, you don't think we over-engineer things sometimes? I get these guys that come, look, my ditch is caving in, we scraped it, rain came. And then they start emailing me stuff they found on the internet, and it's really just a matting that'll go in, and, I know people that sell these things that look like the old beer top, for a 6-pack that you pop open, you put that down and throw rocks in it, and you don't need a concrete things, There's things that we can put in ditches that, Jones got an area, they did a really nice ditch, then trees start growing through a cement ditch. Like, how does that even happen? You know what I'm saying? Euclid or whatever, it wasn't that long,
Yeah.
So if that would have happened with something we didn't spend a tremendous amount of money on, the ditch needs to be done, but was it done wrong, Yeah. That's what, just putting it out there. Do we need to revisit it and do it in a more economical way?
Thank you, Mr. Grove. Mr. Jones?
To answer that, Mike, it was dead. It's a nice ditch, beautiful. But they cut corners and didn't put the padding. So now we got trees, so once a year, we got to go and clean it out, so. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else have any comments on item 5? If not, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 6, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-038 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget to cover the cost of debris removal from Hurricane Zeta and cover costs within communications in the general fund, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Adams will move for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Jones. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item 6? 1 time, 2 times, last call for public. Anyone from the council? There being none, we'll move this to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Lorraine. I'll now entertain a motion to close public hearing. So moved by Mr. Gross, second by Mr. Melvin. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item H, proposed ordinances. Mr. Wendell, you have the floor.
Item number 7, proposed ordinance accepting the subdivision known as Cairo Estates of Bayou Blue, Phase 6 into the parish system, by Mr. Adams on behalf of myself for administration. Item number 8, proposed ordinance accepting the subdivision known as Pine Ridge Estates, Phase D, into the parish system by Mr. Jones for administration. Item number 9, proposed ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2-36 of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances to change the polling location for Ward 9, Precinct 1 from the Lockport Barn to the Career Magnet Center, to further establish the effective date of same, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relative documents by Mr. Otan for administration. Item number 10, proposed ordinance approving a lease agreement between the Lafourche Parish School Board, the owner or lessor, and the parish of the Lafourche, being the parish, for leasing the premises located at 6419 Highway 308, Lockport, Louisiana, 70374, for use as a polling place for Ward 9, Precinct 1 of Lafourche Parish, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relative documents by Mr. Otan for administration. Item number 11, proposed ordinance approving an act of donation between Hayes Equipment and Machinery Company and Lafourche Parish Government for donation of subsurface drainage and sewer materials, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said donation and any and all relative documents by Mr. Grabert for administration.
Thank you very much. Item I, resolutions. Number 12, resolution approving the purchase of one 2021 Chevrolet Malibu in the amount of $17,599 from Jerry Lane Chevrolet for the Lafourche Parish Head Start Department, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chasson for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Grove. Anyone like to discuss? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I got a question.
All right, Mr. Jones.
Why we went to Jerry Lane to purchase this vehicle?
Mr. President.
Head Start regulations don't allow leases, so we had to purchase it off a state contract.
Yeah, and he had sent us an email explaining that, so, because I had the same question. Thank you. Okay, with that said, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 13, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between South Central Planning and Development Commission and Lafourche Parish Government for Homeland Security Equipment, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Grove will move on behalf of the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Grabert. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 14, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Nicholls State University to provide funding for the Louisiana Small Business Development Center Bayou Region for fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $37,500, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Melvin for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion?
Yep.
Mr. Grove.
All right. On page 40, where it shows the performance objectives, they have to consult with 100 existing businesses and, 150 existing small businesses, and it can create 35 jobs and 1.7 million in capitalization. I'm glad we're doing some stuff and developing things, but they don't do these type of things in marketing projects, for free. Like when I was there, we're trying to do a study on bringing the Bayou Bucks to home, and ain't nobody gave us no money,
So it's a lot more than that. I think some of the students do participate in the Small Business Development Center. The key point as to why we got re-involved, and I think I mentioned in the email, was we started this back in, I guess, 2014, 2013, when they finally got it off the ground with some CDBG money, was that it helps, if I'm going to start a small business and I don't necessarily have the place to start it, I can go there, there's office spaces, there's technology and stuff you can use to get your business up off the ground. That's more why we're participating in it, so we can help, the average entrepreneur who wants to be able to get off the ground, be able to do it. I think there's some ancillary benefits with it, being able to reach out to businesses and some economic development stuff. But yeah, there's still some grad projects. We've looked at using Nicholls in the last couple of weeks to do a couple of economic things for us. Dr. Coates, who's an economics professor for Nicholls, did a lot of stuff with the jail years ago when the jail committee, the Blue Ribbon Committee, was kicked back up. So they still do stuff like this. I think this is a much broader scope than what you might have did back in college.
When I saw the termination stuff, I'm like, do they have 150 businesses identified? And then as it reads, it's like, is this the same thing as SLEC with students? So I'm like, we're giving SLEC money.
Yeah, so this is far more than students. This is made for some economic growth, but made for the guy. There was a company that started out in the Small Business Development Center back, I guess it was back in 2016, and they created a simulator for the plant world. So if you wanted to learn how to fly a plane, you can learn how to fly in a flight simulator, right? Well, this is the same world for the plant world, where you can learn how to turn valves, and you did it in a controlled environment. and we didn't blow yourself up, or it wasn't a big, industrial heavy setup where you had to do the actual toolkits. So it's businesses like that's aimed for, to get somebody up off the ground, not so much giving students a place to go to do projects.
I just would like to see, you want to see and touch and feel things that you spend money on. How is the average Joe going to know about it? If somebody wants to open up a restaurant or a drone business or whatever, how do they even know that this exists?
I wish I could tell you that offhand, Mike. I'm sure that Nichols does a whole host of advertising for it, but what we will do, I'll get with Christie, and we'll get Ms. Debbie Benoit from Nichols, who kind of spearheads this, to come. I mean, I'm sure she'd be more than happy to come do a presentation for you guys.
Yeah, please, because
about how to,
show what's
how it actually really in tangible assets works out.
Good, thank you for the explanation, Mr. President. Any further discussion? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 15, resolution approving a preference buyer agreement authorizing 4 Lafourche Parish government employees to purchase surplus state property from the Louisiana Property Assistance Agency and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Grove will move on behalf of the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 16, resolution amending resolution number 20-027 that authorized 5 Lafourche Parish government employees to purchase surplus federal property from the Louisiana Federal Property Assistance Agency and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Mr. Grove will move on behalf of the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 17, resolution reappointing 1 member to Lafourche Parish Communications District Board. Mr. Adams will move on behalf of Mr. Lorraine for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Adams?
Reggie Petrie.
Mr. Reggie Petrie. I got a second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 18, resolution appointing 1 member to the Housing Authority of Lafourche Parish Board. Mr. Adams will act on behalf of Mr. Lorraine for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Adams?
Alice Griffin.
We have Griffin. I got a second by Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Number 19, resolution appointing 1 member on the Head Start Policy Council as a community representative. Ms. Chasson for the administration. Who do you have, Ms. Chasson?
Cameron Walls.
Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 20, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and High Tide Consultants, LLC, to provide construction, engineering, and inspection services for the Lafourche Terrebonne Scenic Overlook Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Grobert for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Grove. Any discussion? Mr. Grove?
I see Shane's here. I appreciate him coming. It's got a good ring to it, but what is the Scenic Overlook Project?
Oh, my God. Where have you been?
You explain it to everybody.
Where have you been? Mr. President, please explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a project that's been on the books for
too long,
almost longer than I've been alive, I think. But it's a pier and a kind of a walkway under Highway 90 near the Tourist Commission building. And I'm happy to say, that our part of this is DOTD and a grant has picked up most of the tab for this. But we're on the hook for the project rep and the resident inspection services, which is why we brought Shane in. But I'm happy to say that the let date is March. So hopefully by the end of the summer, we have something tangible we can walk on.
That's awesome. It's just a walkway on the water at Highway 90. So across from the Tourist Center, so when there's festivals there, they can have pirogue races. Bingo. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 21, resolution accepting the low quote of False Electrical in the amount of $20,000 for lighting repairs to the Golden Meadow Youth Field and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Mr. Adams will move on behalf of Mr. Lorraine for the administration, and second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? Item 21. There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Number 22, resolution approving a priority road ranking list and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Mr. Adams for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 23, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Duplantis Design Group, PC, for architectural and engineering services for the Lafourche Parish Animal Shelter Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 24, resolution rescinding resolution number 20-330 that approved an agreement between the U.S. Department of Interior, National Park Service, Jean Lafitte National Historical Park and Preserve, Lafourche Parish Government, and Lafourche Parish Library for the use of the Percy Lavdo Building, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. This will be moved on by Mr. Adams on Mr. Lorraine's behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you guys approved this, I guess, a few months ago. We signed it on behalf of the library board. This is the lease on the Jean Lafitte building for headquarters. Somebody, after a couple of months from the Department of Interior, finally decided to pick it up and look at it, and they had a few changes. So the library board approved the changes at their meeting last month or earlier this month. Laura, so you guys are going to rescind the old one, and then the next item is to approve the changes. And I think in your packet you have the track changes, so you can see it wasn't much. It was talking about any improvements and who it goes back to after and that sort of thing. So,
very good. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 25, resolution approving an agreement between U.S. Department of Interior, National Park Service, Jean Lafitte National Historical Park and Preserve, Lafourche Parish Government, and the Lafourche Parish Library for the use of the Percy Lavdo Building, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. This will be moved by Mr. Adams on Mr. Lorraine's behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item 26, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Picciolo and Associates Incorporated for engineering services for the project titled Nolan Toops Drainage Outfall Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Mr. Grove will move on my behalf for the administration, second by Mr. Graber. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Lorraine. Item J, parish president, department heads, or directors, or managers' reports, presentations, and or updates. Number 27, Department of Public Works representative to present a report. Dylan, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good evening. See who doesn't want to hear my report. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. As always, starting with District 1, this is Carroll Street, remove driveway culvert. There was no permit here for the driveway culvert, so we pulled it. Also on Carroll Street, swept roadside ditches. Elizabeth Street, swept roadside ditches. Also Elizabeth Street, clean culverts. Sewer Plant Road, replaced driveway culvert. I'm sorry, it's hung up. Moving to District 2, Choctaw Road, installed dead-end signs. Lejeune Canal, remove logs and debris by the bridge. Manchester Manor, repaired road. Silverado culvert, cleared clogged culvert. That's tricky. Talbot Extension, repaired road. Moving to District 3, Highway 3185 and Parish Road, repaired road. Highway 3185 and Parish Road, swept roadside ditches. Highland Lakes, cut grass. Kettle Drive, replace street sign. Miller's Row, replace street sign. Wisteria Drive, swept roadside ditches. Moving to District 4, Chisholm Trail, install driveway culvert. Burma Road, remove trees and clean drainage canal. Crossing North, dressed up spall from outfall. Pierre Foray right-of-way, swept outfall ditch. Eggs Bypass Road, swept drainage ditch, and this is in the rear of the houses. Moving to District 5, Central Street, swept roadside ditches. Palmasano Drive, clean culvert and catch basin. Moving to District 6, Alador subdivision, swept drainage ditch behind sewer plant. Ricotta Lane, swept drainage ditch. Greenville Street, swept roadside ditches. Adams Street, replaced collapsed driveway culvert. Adams Street, cut grass. New Haven Street, cut grass. Moving to District 7, Emile Drive outfall, swept outfall. Hamilton Street, cut grass. LeBlanc Drive, replace collapsed driveway culvert. Here you'll see the before and after. Myrtle Drive, installed autistic child and area sign. South Main Street, replace collapsed driveway culvert. Again, you'll see the before and after. Moving to District 8, Delta Farms boat launch, installed signs. East 19th Street, remove fallen trees from roadside ditch. East 23rd Street, replace collapsed driveway culvert. East 67th Street, replace faded speed limit signs. West 1st Street, dug roadside ditches. West 72nd Street, swept roadside ditches. West 90th Street, repaired large pothole. Moving to District 9, East 87th Street and Avenue C, remove collapsed landscape culvert. East 137th Street, repaired large pothole. West 111th Street, swept roadside ditches. West 112th Street, swept roadside ditches. And that is it. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Dillon? You have the floor, Mr. Melvin.
I got a few quick questions. Thank you, Dylan. Great
Yes,
job. Two questions. First, I noticed on Country Club Boulevard, on the right as you're coming in past the first curve, it seems like for some reason, out of all the projects y'all did right there, or not y'all, but the last administration, it seems like this lady keeps having willow tree saplings growing up in a block between her and the neighbor. And I was wondering if y'all could look at it, spray it. I don't know.
Sure.
I could probably go pull them out by hand, but I'm just wondering, will that do any good? Will it stop it from growing again? I just don't know. And
We'll look into it.
just look into it if you
Any
don't mind.
idea on the address of that, or?
Yeah, I'll get you an address.
Perfect, thank you.
Also, on last year's budget, I'd requested and it did pass, I'm assuming. Did y'all get that vacuum truck?
We're meeting with the guy tomorrow, if you want to
Okay.
be here at 9 a.m.
And look, the reason is because, the reason I sponsored that and wanted to put that in the budget is because a lot more of our subdivisions have closed systems now.
Yes, sir.
And I just think it's gonna help parish-wide, and it will not be just tied to District 4. That's a great thing. So, also, I've heard that these trucks are a little picky and need to be pampered a little bit, okay? So, I just heard we don't wanna abuse them, even though it's a giant vacuum.
Right, and that's why we're having a conversation with a guy who specs these things out. We including our mechanics, the guys who are gonna operate this thing, the guys who are gonna work on it. We wanna have a real big discussion on what kind we buy. Do we go with the manual or the automated ones? There's gonna be a big discussion tomorrow.
Right, it's not an amphibious vehicle, okay? So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Grew.
Yeah, I wanted to thank y'all. I saw in Allison's, the daily maintenance logs that we finally put the Jake brake signs up.
Yes, sir.
And it's not y'all fault. I mean, we passed the ordinance in April of 2019 on that. I mean, and they got installed last week, but it was, DOTD kept kicking it back, wanted exact location, and wanted to know the sign dimension. It's just, the guy was very patient, very thankful for, us following through on it, but it's a shame that, that it took
Yeah,
that much.
I don't know if you
know?
know the specifics of that, but they actually told us exactly what the sign needed to be. We called, got a PO, got everything ready to go, and then they told us that the sign had to be something different. So we had to redo everything from scratch.
And we had the playbook from St. Charles Parish that me and Ms. Carleen looked at. I mean, it was, they
Look,
told us
DOT
exactly
told
what
us
to do,
exactly
and
what
they
the sign
changed
needed to look like,
the
and then
laws
changed
on
what
it.
it needed to look like.
The other thing, I got some texts on the way over here about Nettie Reshore Drive. I know we're all involved in that. This guy's operating a website on boondockers.com, and he's operating an RV park. And
So we
he's
did
been
make
told-
contact with him yesterday, and I can explain that to you a
Well, he
little
got
more.
he had 3 of them in the last 2 days. He's got 2 over there right now.
Okay.
I
He
got
only had
pictures of-
one when we were there, but we
Yeah.
did make contact
One left
with him.
last night, 2 more came. And I thought I'd see Miss Pat. I mean, it's the same, it's like Groundhog's Day, but we need to serve him. I know Shaney was gonna get involved, but he needs to be cited. He received a letter like December 8th, you know, he knows he's doing wrong. I mean, I went there, he's been in this office, he just doesn't wanna make it an RV. I'm not trying to stifle business, but you either in RV park business and get it up to code, or you're not in RV park business. So if we
sir.
can help me with that, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have anything for Dylan? Thank you very much,
Thank
appreciate it.
y'all.
Okay, we'll jump right into item K, discussion. I'll go ahead and start from the end. You have anything, Ms. Chesson? Last final words?
Yeah, I failed on the last meeting we had to mention, thank you to Dylan and the crew from Lockport Field Office, our Galliana Field Office guys for getting that Cope Blanche Bridge up and running again. Took some time to get all the parts together and then to work the kinks out, but they got it going, and I just want to say thank you to all of them.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Gravatt? Mr. Melvin? Mr. Grow, you said enough. Mr. Window? No, sir. Mr. Adams? Mr. Jones? Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't get my typical Monday call from Mike. I guess he saved it all for tonight. Normally he calls. So just a couple of quick updates on the camera system that we've been talking about for several months. We got all the quotes back in. It looks like we're going to be about $12,000 under budget, which is good. And that includes all the camera equipment for Abbey and Marydale, as well as 4 of the boat launches. So we're going to start there. Jason was going to start working with the sheriff's office tomorrow to get it all ordered. That includes all the Ubiquity equipment to keep it up and running, so we don't have to pay a monthly internet charge. We have a meeting scheduled for Thursday afternoon. I think, Mike, I hope you can make it, for the courthouse and the annex renovation project. Kevin Grove's got some stuff we can look at. Mr. Beck, you asked about the Gaines water line. I know Spence is in the room and he doesn't even know this, but we had a meeting last week with Kevin Belanger and Pat Gordon from South Central Planning. Historically, the parish has not applied for Delta Regional Authority grants. We did one last year, which is how we got about $136,000 for the fuel tanks at all the pump stations to change them out. So we're going to work with South Central to see if we can apply for that same funding source and at least start to get some capital money that we can bank, hopefully with some state money that Representative Ogeron is getting to get. So we're chasing a couple different avenues, and I appreciate all that. You know, Wayne and Tori are a huge help, although they're not kind of in the fire protection business. They've been, you know, a lot better to work with than some in the past. Councilman Melvin, we started on Wilson Street. It's going pretty well. We've dropped the water in that subdivision tremendously just by the little bit of work they've been able to do in the last couple of days, so hopefully that pays off. A lot of conversations the last week or so about President Biden's new energy plan and his lack of wanting to drill and issue permits. So you guys are going to hear a lot of that over the next coming weeks as we start to build a coalition with South Central Industrial Association and Bioindustrial Group, the port, and the parish to try to see how we combat this. We had a good meeting yesterday with Congressman Scalise to kind of talk through it with some of the industry partners. Nobody has a really good answer as to how we fight it long term other than screaming as loud and as hard as we can, but it's something that we're going to continue to do. And then although we don't have any parades next week, it is Mardi Gras and COVID's still around, so use some common sense if you're going out. You can't go to New Orleans, but you can come to Lafourche, right, Cody? Or safely, right? Just use some common sense and know that it's still around. A lot of participating pharmacies now in the vaccine program. Now that we've dropped it to 65, we had a few pharmacies that had some extra doses, but when they dropped the age range at the end of last week, we've got some waiting lists again. So a lot of people are taking advantage of it, so hopefully it continues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Mr. Adams?
So you got some extra money in them cameras? I need some cameras.
Yeah.
I need some at the volleyball boat launch.
Okay, with that said, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. So moved by Mr. Gross, second by Mr. Melvin, that there's no further business. Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting of February 9, 2021 will be adjourned at 18:15. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.